The Islamic Center of Tennessee presents
وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We're going to start, inshallah, our halaqah. I was watching President Trump's visitation to Saudi. Many of the youth, of Arab youth, are busy with Trump's wife or Ivanka, his daughter, than anything else. Some even made ash'ar, poetry lines, praising his daughter. Some of them praising his wife. They made some songs, new songs about the Trump's wife or daughter, while they forget about the main message. The Ummah are in a state that we're very low. Until we wake up, we're not going to get back to the Ummah, we'll not go back to the problem. The problems of the Ummah comes within. If the Ummah, the entire Ummah is focusing something unnecessary, a married woman, a daughter of a president who insults Islam, speaks evil about Islam, and they started praising or writing lines of poetry, then the Ummah is a state of yurtha laha, a state that we should give azat to ourselves and say sorry to ourselves. So may Allah bring back the Ummah to the straight path again, inshallah. Until we fix ourselves, still we're going to have this problem. It's very sad. I don't think the Ummah had ever reached the level that we are in, the level of humiliation, the level that we are in, we have never reached it. This week, it was very sad that me seeing that Muslims praising the daughter of Trump or all of, instead of focusing something more important. Come back to our topic. That was just a comment that I wanted to make. So, the muftirat al-siyam. Tonight we're going to start about the nullifiers of Sawm. What can nullify our fasting? So, the first and foremost, the muftirat that we're talking is nullifiers that would nullify the person's fasting. It has to be intentionally. The person has to do this nullifier intentions. That person would become athim, he would become sinful, and he has to make it up that day. The first and the famous one is al-aklu wa-shurb, to eat or drink. To eat or drink would nullify our fasting, and there is no khilaf, there is no disagreement between the scholars in this. Allah says, speaking about this, the ayah that we recited, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا, eat and drink, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْضُ الْأَبْيَضُ, until the white thread of dawn, of Fajr, is distinguished from al-aswad, from the black one, which means until the Fajr comes out. So you can eat all night until the Fajr al-Sadiq, not the first one. The first one is called al-Fajr al-Kadhib. You will see a light in the horizon that you will think it's Fajr time, but it's not the Fajr time. Then it will disappear and there will be dark. Then after that, a true Fajr will come. Allah says, eat and drink until the second Fajr comes. So we'll learn, Allah says, ثُمَّ, after that, أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ, complete your fasting until night. Until the night you cannot eat or drink. But if the person eats or drinks because of forgetfulness, then he is exempted, he is forgiven. Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ نَسِيَ وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ, whoever forgets, eats or drinks while he is fasting, he said, فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَ, let him complete his fasting, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had fed him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to him something to drink. So this is the ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no difference between eating or drinking. Anything that goes to your stomach, to your belly, it's considered as eating or drinking. Whether you consume it from your mouth, or whether you consume it from your nose, or whether you consume something that is not eating or drinking, but it can stand up in the place of eating and drinking. Example, IVs. So if you take IVs, then it's considered as food or drink, because that would feed your body, and people can stay without food or drink for days, if not for months, if they have IVs. So IVs is considered as food or drinking. So food and drink will nullify your fasting. So now this is a rule. Food or drink or anything that will be equivalent to a food or drink will nullify your fasting. In another way, anything that feeds your body, gives you energy, that would nullify your fasting. So there are some modern things, modern issues that scholars spoken about. So I'm going to mention, inshallah, maybe 15 of them, and I'm going to give the ruling of each one, inshallah. Number one, asthma spray. They call it bkhaqrab. So what is the ruling on that? The people who have asthma, they have a spray. It's a small bottle that contains little liquid, and that have a dawa in it, that have some medicine in it. It contains first water, oxygen, and some medicine in it. So if that nullifies or not, the scholars have spoken about. Al-asah, the strongest opinion with Jamhur, is that it will not nullify the fasting. The asthma spray will not nullify the fasting. Many reasons. One of the reasons, first, there is some liquids in it. The liquid in it is so little. They say in each bottle of that, it contains half of 1/10 of milliliter. There's very, very little, and that's ma'fu. That's point number one. Number two, that spray, there is no qat'i, there's no certainty that assures that even if you spray that, it will reach your stomach. It may just end up with your nose and your mouth. It may not even go to your stomach, reach your stomach. That's point number two. And in fiqh, al-yaqeen la yuzalu bishak. If there is certainty, you have a doubtful matter, you don't take the yaqeen out. For example, you made a wudu, and after the wudu, you came out and you thought whether you lost your wudu or not, whether you passed gas or not, whether you used the bathroom again or not. Then you build upon yaqeen. The certainty is that you have used you had made wudu. Then you have your wudu. But doubt thing comes to your mind will not nullify or will not take the rule out. Unless there is a certainty, then you cannot rule it out. The third reason, that spray, asthma spray, is not either food or drink, or it's not equivalent to a food or drink. It does not feed the person who consumes or who uses that medicine. Also, the scholars, they have another argument, which is the siwak that we use, the toothpaste. They say that contains 8 types of chemicals, and that will not nullify your fasting. So we make siwak, we use the siwak, the toothbrush, the siwak one, the one from the tree. That one, the scholars, then the science says that it have 8 types of chemicals, so that won't nullify your fasting. If that will not nullify your fasting, then the same as asthma spray. So al-rajih, short form, the most correct opinion in this, that medicine will not nullify the person's fasting. The second thing that I want to talk about is the under tongue bills. There are some bills that you put under your tongues. The people who have heart problem uses it. That they put, you're not going to swallow, you put under your tongue. That straight goes to your am'a, to your veins, and that would reach the heart, and that would solve the problems of the heart. So that medicine, is that nullifies of your fasting or not? So the strongest opinion, that thing will not go to your jawf, that will not reach your stomach, and that is not feeding, so it will not nullify your fasting. It will not nullify your fasting. The third one we might need to discuss is the minzar, the telescopes. Sometimes they put something in your vein or your mouth to look into your stomach. It's a camera that could see your stomach, that could see the issues that you may have, the places in your stomach where you have issues. They will take a picture, a video of it, so that they can treat that spot. Something is a camera. The scholars spoke about, even the past scholars spoke about, what about if you swallow something that's not food or drink, accidentally? Something, maybe a stone, you swallow it. Would that nullify your fasting or not? The scholars in the past have spoken about, and this minzar is a qiyas to that. So al-asah, again, the most strong opinion to that, it will not nullify your fasting. Some scholars, they say, the Hanafi madhab, it says that if that thing stays in your stomach until the time to break fast, then it will break your fast. By the way, there is no proof to that. So al-asah, again, to that mas'alah, that thing will not nullify your fast because it's not food or drink, or it's not something that equivalent to that. The other thing that scholars speak about is the nose drops, the little liquid, the nose that you drop into your nose. The scholars have spoken about. The scholars have 2 differences of opinion. One is, the first opinion is that a nose drop will nullify your fasting, based on that, because the nose has an access to your stomach, so it may go to your stomach. This is some of the scholars have. It's not al-asah. This is not the most correct opinion. The most correct opinion is that it will not nullify your fast, based on the same reasons that we have spoken about the spray and something like that. It will not nullify. The reason being, the liquid is very little amount. The amount of liquid is too little. They say it's 0.06 centimeter in a cubic. They say so little, and there is no guarantee that drop will reach your stomach. It might stop in your nose. It might let it pass your nose to your throat, but there is no guarantee that will reach your stomach. That's point number one. Point two is not mughaddi. It's not going to feed you. It's not going to give you energy. For that reason, the strongest opinion, again, it will not nullify. It will not nullify your fasting. The other one is same thing, the nose sprayer. It goes again the same way. The nose sprayer is that when you have cold and you have stuffed nose, then sometimes you use a spray that will clear out your nose. You can breathe better. Same thing. It will go same as the nose drops. That also will not nullify your fasting. What about the qatratul udhun, the ear drop that you drop, you put it to your eyes? Again, first scholars, they say there is no link between the ears. The science also says it, between the ear and the stomach. So which means that what you put in your ear will not reach your stomach. So for that reason, it will not nullify your fasting. Will not nullify your fasting. That's point number one. Some scholars, they say if the tabla, if the drum in your ear is broken, then it might nullify your fasting. But that again, it's not the strong opinion. The strongest opinion again to this, it will not nullify your fasting. Again, the ear cleaner liquid, the liquid that they use to clean your ears. What do you guys think? It will not nullify your fasting, right? Same, it goes the same rule, same analogy, because it may, that will not go and reach your stomach. That will not reach your stomach. What about the eye drop? The eye drop, the same thing. It will not nullify your fasting because it will not reach your stomach, nor is feeding or drinking. And plus, the liquid, the drop is too little. The liquid in that is too little. It's not something that would feed you or give you some strength or energy. Okay, the medical injections, the regular injections, you have a doctor. These are two categories. One is mughaddi, one is feeding. It gives you energy. Amongst it, IVs. So if it's mughaddi, if something that feeding the body, the injection that you take, whether it's from your skin or whether from your veins or whether from your muscles, if that feeds your body and gives you energy, it will nullify your fasting. However, the most injections will not nullify because it's not feeding. So if you go to doctor and you have to take a shot, the regular shots, the school shots or something like that, that will not nullify your fasting. The only thing will nullify your fasting is the IVs, because it feeds your body. The creams and lotions and bandages. The cream and lotions, as you know that there is small holes in your body. When you use the cream, that goes into your skin. That goes inside your skin, inside your body, and your body usually benefits from that. However, that's not feeding it to your body, and it will not give you energy. It's not food or drink, nor it stands. It doesn't. If you take lotions, you can't say, I don't want to eat because I had lotions in my body. So for that reason, this will not nullify your fasting too. Al-asah will not nullify your fasting. The other point needed to be discussed is kidney cleansings. They call it dialysis. The dialysis. Will that nullify your fasting or not? The procedure is that they change your blood and they give you new blood, because the blood that you have, or they take your blood and clean it and remove all the dirty from your blood. When they do that, they're giving you new blood, which is fed, and they put in feeding dawa into it, feeding medicine into it. So that will nullify your fasting. However, if the person has kidney problems, I think he should break his fast because he's a sick person. And he should not force himself to fast. So dialysis will break your fast because of that reason, because it gives feeding and it gives you new blood. Gives you new blood. What about the vaginal suppositories? They call suppositories? Supposito. They call it suppositories. Would that nullify your fasting or not? Al-Asah, the strongest one into this mas'ala, is that it will not nullify your fasting, because they say there is no connection between the woman's private party to her stomach. It will not go through her from stomach all the way from the private party to the stomach. For that reason, al-asah. And again, these are fiqh issues the scholars had debated, and each one brought some. He looked into different things. Is it debatable all these points that I mentioned? But I'm mentioning the asah again, the most correct opinion to that. It will not nullify, because there is no connection between the woman's private party to the stomach. What about the anal suppositories? The one you take it from the back, from some of the people who have mathalan and hemorrhoids, the bawasir, they take it, that suppositories. Would that nullify your fasting or not? First, the scholars, they say there is a connection first. There is connection between the person's anal to his stomach, because that's where the food goes. There is connection. So the scholars, they say, if the suppositories that he takes is a feeding, if it contains some feedings, then it will nullify your fasting. And if it's not contains, and usually does not contain feeding substance in it, it will not nullify your fasting. So al-asah, again to this, the most correct opinion is that will not nullify your fasting. What about donating a blood? Would that nullify your fasting? Donating? No. Because you're not getting anything first. You're not getting energy. You're not eating or drinking. Rather, you might be losing something. So it will not nullify your fasting. Some scholars has a debate about the hijama based on a hadith of Rasulullah, and we'll discuss about it, inshallah. The ruling of hijama, cupping, the body cupping, inshallah we'll speak about. However, donating a blood will not nullify your fast, because it's not feeding, nor it does stand the place of feeding. What about blood tests? You give your blood to be tasted, same thing. It will not nullify your fasting, because you're not eating. What about toothpaste? The toothpaste that you make and brush with your mouth, with the teeth. The reason that I'm mentioning these questions we receive in Ramadan. We receive in Ramadan and people do not know. So it's good to know and listen, inshallah. What about that? What is it? What do you guys think? It will not nullify your fasting, because you're not eating or drinking, unless you intentionally swallow it. And I don't think anybody would do that. So it will not nullify your fasting. What about throwing up? The scholars, this hadith of Prophet ﷺ said that whoever throws up intentionally, he make himself throw up intentionally, he will nullify his fast. Man dara'ahu al-qay'u fala qada'a alayhi. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever throws up unintentionally, yet he doesn't have to make it up that fasting. But whoever makes himself throw up, then he has to make qada. They say the scholars, making yourself throw up intentionally would weaken your body, and the purpose of fasting is not to weaken the person's body or the person's strength. It's not. It's a taqwa. Rather, it's taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you intentionally throw up, it will nullify your fasting, based on the hadith of Prophet ﷺ. If you throw up without intention, if you throw up without intention, then that will not nullify your fasting. The hijama, the cupping, you guys all know hijama, right? The cupping is a sunnah of Prophet ﷺ. So there is two narrations, two opposite ways of narration from Prophet ﷺ. One narration says that the Prophet ﷺ, he came in Baqi' while a man was being cupped. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم. The person who is doing the hijama, the one who is done for the hijama, indeed had made iftar, indeed had nullified their fasting. That's one hadith. The other hadith of Prophet ﷺ, there's hadith of Ibn Abbas, that it was narrated that the Prophet ﷺ made hijama while he was a muhram, or he was in a state of haram. He was doing umrah or hajj. And also he also made hijama while he was fasting. This is in Al-Bukhari, Sahih hadith. And there's another hadith of Prophet ﷺ, saying that Prophet ﷺ had allowed al-hijama and qubla, kissing, and we're going to speak about inshallah, kissing your wife, or hijamat, cupping. So these are opposite narrations. Some scholars, Madhab al-Hanbali, says that it nullifies your fasting. But the majority, al-jamhur, they say that will not nullify your fasting. And how they interpret the first hadith, they say is mansukh. This was at the beginning of time. The Prophet ﷺ had forbade it, and after a while the Prophet ﷺ had allowed, and he had practiced hijama while he is fasting. And this is al-asah al-aqwal. This is the most correct opinion in this matter. What about nose bleeding? Some people have a problem, they bleed, their nose bleeds constantly. Will that nullify your fasting? No, it will not, because that is not even intention. So it will not nullify your fasting. It will not nullify your fasting. The other issue is releasing sperm, and releasing sperm with enjoyment. If it's ihtilam, if the person have a wet dream while he's fasting, there is no problem in it. But what about the person kisses his wife, or releases istimna, or he does istimna? I'm avoiding the kids, inshallah. So what is the ruling to that? The scholars, they say if the person unintentionally, it will not nullify his fasting, but intentionally will nullify his fasting, and this is not considered as a jama'ah. This is not the ruling of having sexual intercourse with your wife, because Prophet ﷺ, he said in general about the fasting, يَدَعُ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ مِنْ أَجْلِي. He leaves his food or drink and his desire for me. So part of fasting is you have to fast from your desire. So you cannot have a shahwa, you cannot have enjoyment while you're fasting. Enjoyment, I mean sexual enjoyment, releasing. So that will nullify your fast. Qubla, about playing with your wife, kissing your wife. What is the ruling in that? Number one, it will not nullify. If you kiss your wife, it will not nullify your fasting. By the way, people ask this question, trust me. It will not nullify your fasting if you don't release it. If there is no istimna, if there is no shahwa that came from you, it will not. But if the person kisses, then he releases the sperm, then it will nullify his fasting, because he practiced something that he should not do it. So the qubla in general, kissing your wife, is not haram in Ramadan. But if that leads you to have a shahwa, then you lost that day's fasting, and that's not jima', by the way. The ruling of jima' we'll speak about, inshallah. That's not like you slept with your wife. Rather, you lost that day's fast, and you were sinful, and you have to make it up only that day. But if you sleep your wife, the issue is different, inshallah. We're going to speak about it, and we're going to speak about now. If the person sleeps, and have a sexual intercourse with his wife, first he loses his fast. He loses his fast. And after that, there's a penalty upon that person, the person that sleeps with his wife. First, he has to make up that day. Then what he does, either first, there's stays. Number one, option one, he has to free a slave. So there's no slave these days. Number two, if he cannot do that, then he fasts 2 months in a row, based on a hadith of Prophet ﷺ. So he fasts 2 months in a row. If you can't do that, then you feed 60 poor people. You feed 60 poor people. So you cannot sleep with your wife during the day of Ramadan. However, the night is acceptable, as the ayah says. The hadith of Hurairah, a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Halaktu ya Rasulullah. I have lost, O Messenger of Allah. I'm in trouble." Then the Messenger of Allah said, "What's wrong with you?" The man said, "I had fallen into my wife in the day of Ramadan." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to that man, "Hal tajidu ma ta'taq raghabah? Can you free a slave?" The man said, "No." Then the Messenger of Allah said, "Can you fast 2 months in a row?" The man said, "No." Then the Prophet ﷺ said, "Can you feed 60 poor people?" The man said, "No, I don't have anything. I'm the poorest guy." The man sat. After a while, there was some dates was given as a charity to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Take this date and go ahead and donate so that it can be a kafara for you." Then the man, he said, "I don't have anyone. I don't know anyone in Medina who is in need more than I. I'm in need of this." And the Messenger of Allah said, he laughed so much until his old teeth was visible, and he said, "Go and feed and donate to your family." So if the person does this violation, this is a mughallada, the punishment is so severe, then the person has to go through this. That means that we have to restrict ourselves during the day of Ramadan and make sure that you don't fall into this. We don't fall into this. So the scholars have spoken about what about the woman? Does she have to do these things if the man sleeps with the man? if the kafara upon the woman too. Al-madhab al-Shafi'i, Shafi'i says that he doesn't have, the woman doesn't have to do this kafara. However, this opinion is not as strong. Why Imam al-Shafi'i says that? Because Prophet ﷺ, when he was speaking to man, he did not mention his wife. He said, can you fast? Can you free a slave? He was talking to the man, and he did not mention the wife. For that reason, Imam al-Shafi'i says a woman doesn't have to do anything in it. However, the scholars argue, they say in general, the rulings of Sharia, even though sometimes uses a man, sometimes uses the pronoun of a man, but the entirely, when Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, that means, oh, you believe. Linguistically means for the men, but this applies to all men and women. So based on that, the woman has to go through the punishment, or has to do the kafara, except if she is forced to it. If she's severely forced to this issue, then she doesn't have to pay anything. The scholars, they say that Prophet ﷺ did not mention this man about ghusl. He didn't say go and take shower. So this does not mean he doesn't have to take shower. It doesn't mean, though, they say that, they say if the Prophet ﷺ, it doesn't mean the Prophet ﷺ did not mention the woman, she doesn't have to do that. Prophet ﷺ even also, he did not mention about taking shower and the rest. He did not mention. So based on that, then the woman also has to do the same, has to pay the kafara. So this is the al-asah, the aqwal al-asah. This is the most correct opinion. It's the most correct opinion to this mas'ala. What about, we mentioned it has to be muta'ammid. The person has to do these things intentionally. What about the person, and if you see someone who is in Nahar Ramadan eating or drinking because of forgetfulness, do you have to remind him or not? What do you think? We have to remind him? Okay. There's two aqwal into this. Number one is we have to remind him, and that's the strongest opinion. Based on a hadith, Rasulullah said, if you see somebody is doing something wrong, let him change that wrong. فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. Based on that, they say you have to. There are some ulama says that hadith Rasulullah said the person is fed. أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَى. Allah had fed him. Allah had given him something to drink. Then if Allah is doing that, we should not interfere, and we should not tell the person. I always forget. My wife always tells me. She reminds me and say, why you don't find something else to do? Let me eat or drink. However, so al-asah, when it comes to fiqh position, the position that says the person has to be reminded is stronger, even though there's an opinion that you don't have to remind him if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is feeding him. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is feeding him. Among the sunnah things in Ramadan is to do ta'jil al-fitr, to break your fast as soon as possible. As soon as the sun sets, it's a sunnah to fast. Sunnah to break your fast. And it's a sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet always used to break his fast as soon as the sun sets. Even before Maghrib, he used to eat or drink something. He used to eat a date. So it's sunnah, it's min adab. A man, the Prophet was in a safar. He asked one of the men, go and get the water and fix the drink. The man said, let's wait until it gets dark. The Prophet he said, go and get it. He insisted, and the man got it at the end. So based on that, we learn that it's sunnah to do it as soon as possible. For those who are working, if you are working at work, it's sunnah, highly encouraged that you break your fast, even just by drinking a water or by eating one date. Just break your fast, even in your work. And this is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet said, "Thalathun min akhlaq al-anbiya." Three things are the manners, the etiquettes of the prophets of Allah. Number one is ta'jilul iftar, to hasten the iftar. So to hasten the iftar is sunnah, and this is against the Yahud and Nasara. When they fast, they break their fast. And then when they fast, they break their fast until the night, until it gets dark. But as the Ummah of Muhammad, we break our fast as soon as the sun sets. So it's sunnah to hasten to that. This also will make easy for the people. Also, when it comes into suhoor, it's sunnah to make suhoor. It's not wajib, but it's highly encouraged that the people to make suhoor every night. This is a barakah. Prophet ﷺ said, "Tasahharu fa inna fi suhoori barakah." Make suhoor, and there's a barakah into it. One of the hikmah, even though, is you're going to wake up, you're going to have a time to do istighfar, you're going to have a time to do dhikr. This is the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends to the first heaven. This is thuluthul akhir. You wake up, you eat and drink, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a good moment to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's in barakah that the people should do that. The Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he used to connect days of fasting without even breaks fast. They say that one time he did, the Prophet ﷺ, it was at the end of the month. They said, we saw you doing. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, I can do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given me the strength to do that. Some of the companions, they said, we will do it with you. They did 2 days, then Eid came. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that if there was no Eid, I would continue, and you would see that you will not be able to bear it. Wasl is not also encouraged to do it, to connect the fasting. So suhoor is sunnah. And when it's sunnah, it's better to make your suhoor at the end of the night, before the fajr. There's a sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. They say that the Prophet ﷺ used to make suhoor right before fajr, until you could recite 50 ayat. So put some little time between the suhoor. So it's better to delay the suhoor as much as possible. When you're breaking a fast, it's a sunnah to use water and date, and the science also have proven this will help your body, using date, specifically date, and drinking water. So it's encouraged, inshallah. It's encouraged. Also, in the siyam, when we're fasting, I'm ending inshallah soon. When we're fasting, we fast from everything that nullifies the fasting. Among them are food and drink, and leaving our desires. Among the things that we fast from is disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man lam yada'a qawl az-zuri wal 'amal bih." Whoever does not leave qawl az-zur, lying, saying zur, or doing zur, lying, or ignorant, being ignorant or being bad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need him being hungry, does not need him leaving his food or drink. The scholars spoken about. Some scholars, they say that the person, Ibn Hajar says that Ibn Hazm went extreme with this. He said that if you disobey Allah during the day of Ramadan, you lie or you transgress against someone, would break your fast. But this is not a strong opinion. The strong opinion is that would take the reward of your fast. That would take the reward of your fast. You may go zero, sometimes even you may go negative. You may go negative something. Instead of getting reward from your fasting, you may get sins because of you doing this disobedience of Allah during the days of Ramadan. The other mas'ala, inshallah, is the mas'ala, someone dies and he did not fast some days. Does his son or someone who is close to him has to fast? Prophet ﷺ, there's hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, he said that man sama wa alayhi siyam sama anhu waliyu. If someone dies and there is some days that he's supposed to fast and he didn't make it up, let his wali, the person who's closer to him, make up that fast on his behalf. The Jamhur, they say that it's not wajib first. You don't have to fast from it, because لا يكلف ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. If your dad passed and he had some days, you don't have to fast, but it's good in a sunnah, as the hadith says, to fast on his behalf. To fast on his behalf, the hadith that came onto this mas'ala. The final point is al-i'tikaf. To stay in a masjid and make i'tikaf and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'tikaf is luzum al-shay. You do something constantly, it's called i'tikaf. It's the person to stay in the masjid obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can make i'tikaf during Ramadan, is highly encouraged. So you can make all day, you can make 10 days, but the last 10 of Ramadan is highly encouraged. The Prophet ﷺ used to do i'tikaf in the masjid. He used to stay in the masjid and cut off anything from dunya and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as he could. So we are encouraged to make that i'tikaf during Ramadan, especially the last 10 of Ramadan, because these are the special days that we need to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person who makes the i'tikaf, he cannot have a sexual intercourse, he cannot sleep with his wife, he cannot get busy with anything but the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the masjid, he cannot do ma la ya'nis, the things that does not mean does not benefit him, like talk about the news, like nonsense things, or just to have fun. He has strictly He has to directly focus in remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting the Quran. He stays in the musalla and he tries his best to take advantage of that. So the last 10 of Ramadan is highly encouraged the people to make i'tikaf. Then usually some of the masajid, especially back homes, people stay all the last 10 of Ramadan in the masjid and sleep in the masjid. During the day they recite Quran, they make adhkar, and that's something good to do it if the person want really take advantage of Ramadan. This is called English seclusion. You go seclusion where you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these days. You cannot make seclusion or i'tikaf in a mawla'. Mawla' means small masjid where there's no full jama'ah in it. You cannot make i'tikaf in the musallas because you're going to miss salatul jama'ah and so forth. So the i'tikaf can be done in a masajid that they pray Jum'ah in it. They pray Jum'ah in it, and it's encouraged, and you'll be rewarded for that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to reach Ramadan and to make us among those who will be forgiven and will get the rahmah of Allah in this month, in this coming month of Ramadan. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. If there's questions, we will take it inshallah. Go ahead. Bismillah. Yes. Yes, also rinsing your mouth, all this you can, yes. What about swimming? I forgot to mention that. Is swimming, will that nullify your fasting or not? It will not. You can swim all day, it will not nullify because the water will not get into your stomach, or except a person who does not know how to swim. He has certainty, it's not shak. He has certainty that if he goes to that water, he will drown. He cannot. Then you can swim, you can go inside, and because the water will not get into your body, even your ears will block it, as you know. I swim a lot. I used to swim a lot, and I used to be close to the sea. So you can swim during the month of Ramadan, unless you have big doubt or big certainty that you cannot handle it, or you may swallow through your nose or from your mouth. But if you're a good swimmer, if you know how to swim, then you can. Yes. I'tikaf, there's no minimum to stay, although some scholars they say there's a minimum to it a day or something like that. But according to the strongest, there's no proof it has a minimum. And it doesn't, and you could stay any time, but you have to have intent. It doesn't mean you stayed in the masjid, but i'tikaf is an act of worship. Any act of worship, there must be an intention to it. So if you intend, you can do 2 hours, 3 hours. The more reward you want, the more is better. But it's highly encouraged to fully seclude yourself the last 10 of Ramadan. Spend in the masjid, read Quran, contemplate yourself, cut yourself from the dunya. Focus these 10 days in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His worship. It's something great to do it. For those who could, they should. The masjid will not be closed the last 10 of Ramadan. It will not. Yes, that will be i'tikaf, and the reward would be between dhuhr and i'tikaf. Yes, there is no minimum according to the strongest opinion. You can, but again, you can only leave something necessity. They say that if you have something in mind, you know you're going to be leaving. You could say, I intend the i'tikaf except those days and times I will be going to yourself. So you can make those shart. You can say those days and I have something to do, I'm going to go. If there is something emergency to go, you can. If you have a janaba, wet dream, you can go and take a shower. If there's something really emergency, you can really go and take care of it and come back. Come back during i'tikaf. Inshallah.